Welcome to Elite Expert Insider Podcast, where we will inspire, motivate, and educate entrepreneurs, innovators, and growth seekers. Brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, making the best and brightest in the industry #1 best-selling authors. 80% of people say they want to write a book. We're assuming that's the same for you. If so, contact us at www.eliteonlinepublishing.com and make your book a reality. Hi, Melanie Johnson here with another great podcast for you. Hey, Jenn, how you doing?
Hey guys, doing great.
So Jenn and I both have some college students. I have two, she has one, and she has two more that are going to be going on their way in a few years. So it's always this process. People have asked me, what did your kids do to get into college? How do you pay for it? How should they, about their essays, their test scores? What are the strategies to try and get in? And I got to tell you, the most stressful years in high school are when they are juniors and going through that whole process and part of their senior year. I know I got more gray hairs that year. Thank goodness for hair dye. I just got to tell you. So today we have the college guru with us, Christian Hansen, who is going to tell us all the inside scoop on how to get into college, how to get that killer essay, the test scores, all of that. But first, we want you to subscribe to our podcast. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We love to have more subscribers, and we love to hear from you. So leave us a review. Tell us what you'd like to hear more of, and we'll answer back. So please communicate with us. And our podcast is brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, where we make business people and entrepreneurs best-selling authors and teach them how to use their book for their business as a lead generation and magnet and to gain credibility in the marketplace. All right, so we are going to get started. So if you have friends that are getting kids into college, your kids are going into college, your grandkids are going into college, you need to listen to this today. Christian, thank you so much for coming and welcome.
Thank you so much, Melanie and Jenn. It's great to be with you. Love your podcast, and it's just a pleasure to be with you today.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit, Christian, how you got into this field and how you are helping all these people and getting into college.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of have this interesting background where I worked as an undergrad admissions officer as well as a financial aid advisor. And then I was able to become the associate director of admissions for an MBA program. And then thrown in there, I had some HR experience. So I had this really kind of interesting perspective of helping students navigate these three major transitional stages from high school to college, and then college into grad school, and even college and grad schools into the job market. And it was really interesting to see how there's some common traits and even some common skills that successful students and successful applicants are able to demonstrate at each one of these. In particular, I remember specifically being in an admissions meeting where we were with the committee, and we were looking at very special cases, and we had one applicant's file up. We looked at their applicant file, and we're like, okay, this is a good student. But we decided to deny them. But then we had this other applicant up who had different numbers, less grades, less test scores, but their essays were a little bit different. But everybody in the room was so taken with this student's application that they're like, we have to have this student. And as a young admissions officer, I sat there going, wait a second, what just happened? How did this student, with okay grades and okay test scores, completely influence us to choose them? And it was then that I was like, I need to study this. How do great communicators influence people, and how do students successfully portray themselves and influence reviewers like me in the college admissions process? So that's kind of my background. And as I've studied that, I've seen how the same things occur as students are getting to, again, high school to college into grad school, and then beyond as well.
Wow.
It's this fascinating thing that, again, that's a unique perspective that I bring to the table.
Yeah, I love that. So more of the communication and more of, really winning over those people who are going to be choosing you.
Yeah,
awesome.
No, absolutely.
It sounds like the essay is really, really important, can really shift you from grades to other things. So what do you think the top misconception is that people have about college?
It's funny you mentioned that, because I think we can see all around us that people have this intense feeling that they have to get into a specific college, right?
Mhm.
That they have that if they don't get into this one brand, right, of a college, then their success in life is going to be completely down the tubes. And so when I think of the biggest misconception that people have about college, it's the thought that there's only a select few number of colleges that can afford this type of success. And that's just simply not true. And so just for example, if you were to take the top, Fortune 500 CEOs in the United States today, where do you think the largest number of them went to college? If you were just to think about it, like where do you think the
Oh, yeah.
largest amount
You'd
of
be
them?
thinking, the Ivy League schools, Yale, Harvard, uh, Pepperdine, maybe, you'd be thinking that.
Right? Yeah, and a lot of people do think that, but in reality, the largest amount of Fortune 500 CEOs actually went to Wisconsin.
Hmm.
Right?
Wisconsin.
Yeah, Wisconsin. It's a fabulous school, right? And so here's this thing is that when you look at the top people that are in the field today, they went to a variety of schools. But the thing is that people have the sense of, oh, I have to only go to this one program and that's the only way I'm going to be successful. When in reality, no, you can reach success and lifelong success by going into any number of places. So I really believe that as, I'm helping students, to help them understand that they need to know the why of their going to college before they know the where. And if
Mhm.
we can determine that, then they're going to be successful. And one of the resulting problems, as we can see, is people are like, well, I have to go and buy this college education, which I can't afford because I believe that that's the only way I'm going to be successful, right?
Mhm.
But it's interesting. If you were to go buy a car or, a house, would you go and buy a house that you absolutely cannot afford simply to be in a zip code that you think is going to make your life different? Of course not. Or would you buy a car just because it's, the most expensive brand car out there? Sure, it's a great car, but you're not going to throw yourself under the bus financially to make that happen. But rather, you see a car and a house as a tool that's going to help you live your life more fully
Mhm.
and provide for your family differently. If we are able to look at colleges in the same way, that we look at it simply only merely just as a tool that you're hiring to help you accomplish something that you want to do, then that has huge repercussions. People are more, intelligently purchasing, tuition, right? They're not going to go into as much debt. They're going to look at different options, and they're not going to be beholden to only this top list of 15 schools when there may be a phenomenal opportunity right around the corner from where they live.
So you
So
seem to think the name of the institution carries weight when they have two applicants. It's kind of like applying for the school. You've got two applicants. One is from, a more prestigious school, supposed to be a tougher education, and the other one. I mean, does that weigh more? If, let's say, everything else is equal, the communication is equal, what do you think they're going to go with?
So in the case of the job market or in the
Mhm.
case of graduate school?
Yeah, both, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. The name of the school, of course, is some factor, but to be able to highlight why, as a reviewer at graduate institutions, I saw a lot of students who had great pedigrees, but after a while, it just becomes noise to me. Like, okay, great, this is another one from this great school. Oh, this is another one from this great school. But what stands out is if a student can articulate their purpose and
Mhm.
tell me how it's an asset, right?
Yeah.
If someone goes to Harvard, that alone in itself isn't going to just guarantee that they're going to come into my program or the position I'm trying to hire for.
Right.
Rather, I'm looking for how can you make that an asset, and tell me why that's important. How does that add value to what you're going to bring to my organization?
Mhm.
So it's that perspective. So of course, yeah, name is an impact, but more importantly, how someone is going to make that an asset in their abilities and impact. That's more important.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
Oh, good. Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's talk about the essays more. So what's a common essay pitfall? What are some of the things that people do and mistakes they make?
First of all, reading essays for colleges is one of the funnest, most hilarious things you can do because there are some great great memorable ones that people think that they're going to stand out, but they stand out for the completely wrong reasons. You know, I mean, I had someone write once, they thought they were trying to be clever. They said, oh, I can burp the entire alphabet. You know, that's funny, but I'm not going to give someone a spot at my institution for that. I would say that the biggest pitfall happens even before they start writing. Okay. And this is a perspective that you probably have never considered, but it's something that when I share with students and their parents, they're like, oh my gosh, I never had that idea. And it basically goes like this. In everything that you learn about writing in high school is completely ineffective when it comes to writing applications in college.
No way.
Let me explain, okay? Now, there's some things that carry over, obviously, right? But think about the environment in which you have learned to write in high school, right? In high school, you're in a classroom of 30 students, and your teacher knows you all really well, right? And any essay assignment that you've done, it's typically only one essay at a time. That's it. So your success in high school is based on the fact that you've only competed against 30 other people, and with a single essay. And the third thing is that it rewards the success in high school writing is rewarded with a grade. And the thing is, grades are limitless. If 10 people in your class get an A, that doesn't impact your abilities to get an A either, right? Mm-hmm. And so unless they grade on a curve, which is rare, right? But and then the last thing is that in high school, the whole point of writing is to prove that you have learned something, right? It's, analysis essays or even descriptive essays or reporting of some sort. It's to prove that you know something. Well, that is the environment. That is the ecosystem that you have learned. This is what successful writing comes from. But when you look at the college application process, and especially the college application essays, it's a completely and fundamentally different environment. And therefore, it means that you need to have a different set of strategies. So, for example, compared to only having 30 students at a time, you have thousands upon thousands of students that are competing, right? And compared to only having to write one essay at a time in high school, most college applications have multiple essays that are being reviewed at the exact same time. Instead of having grades and a reward that is limitless, in college applications, you're competing for a spot, which is very limited. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, instead of high school writing where the whole point is just to prove what you know, right? And if you can do that effectively, then you win. Well, in college, if everyone else is proving what they know, if that's what you do, then you've just shown that you're one of everybody else. So writing for a college application needs to have a completely different strategy set, purely because the environment that dictates success is fundamentally different than everything you've learned about writing in high school. And I would say the exact same thing applies for grad school, because everything that you learn about writing in college is the exact same, similar criteria for success. But when you're applying to grad school, it's a fundamentally different thing. So that's what I think the biggest pitfall is that people think that successful writing skills and strategies that they take from high school are going to help them stand out when it comes to making that transition, be it into college or into grad school, and even into job markets, right? Where you're interviewing, right. People are just trying to prove what they know, but that's not what the reviewers are really looking for, So
what are the strategies? So we've determined that it's different than what you write in high school, but what are give us 2 to 3 key things that they should make sure they have in their essay that makes them stand out?
Yeah. So I would say, instead of thinking, most people only think in terms of, just one clever essay, right? Mm-hmm. And if I just have this clever essay and this stands out, then that's enough. I use this example a lot. When I was young, I was in Scouts, and our Scout leader, he's like, okay, we're going to do this fun project. We're going to make a chair out of wood. And my 11-year-old self was just so excited. So I got this chair leg, this unvarnished, piece of wood, and I took this home, and man, I just gave my heart and soul to this piece of wood. I sanded it, I varnished it, lovingly etched my name. I thought this was going to be surely in the Smithsonian, museum for the best chair leg ever made by an 11-year-old. But then when we came together as a scout troop, I saw everybody bring their chair pieces, and it was, different shaped legs, different colors, different lengths. And when we tried to assemble it together, nothing actually fit. And it was this zombie, Frankenstein chair that no one was going to sit in because it didn't work or all work together. And our scoutmaster said, he's like, you all were thinking about individual parts. You need to be thinking about how it all's supposed to fit together. So when it comes to college applications, and especially essays, knowing that it's not just one single essay, but rather you're going to have multiple essays that are working together. How do all of your essays work as a cohesive whole to tell your story? And how can they align with the greater application that you're submitting? So that's one of my core strategies that I work with. Make sure that your application and everything is aligned to tell your story. And then the second thing is stories, right? Make sure you use stories, because our brains are phenomenal filters. And if we are bombarded with facts and figures and they don't have meaning, then we automatically click it to noise and we ignore it. Mm-hmm. And so many people think that, success is based on just cramming as many facts and figures into my essays as possible. But we all know that our brains are automatically just going to be like, okay, this is just noise. I don't see the story here. Right. So make your essays story focused, but then ask yourself, how do my essays work together to tell the message that I'm trying to tell?
I love that. Because you can say all the facts and figures, student body this, club that, but if you don't tell a story about it, they're not going to remember. They're just going to be like, oh yeah, they have all these, they were busy in high school, but they don't really have any story behind it, so they don't know your character or who you are.
Well, it's what we say in books. So, when you create your book, become an author, that people connect with you with the stories. That's how they connect. And we even say, when you go to listen to a minister teach, they have the scripture, which is what you're supposed to learn, but then they have the stories and the illustrations that give you examples to go along with it. And that's how people connect with you and they feel close to you by having that.
Absolutely. And you're able to influence them with stories. And so those are just some of the major pitfalls that people think that I'm going to stand out by throwing all this stuff in, but they are using the mindset from high school, which is I'm providing facts and figures. I'm establishing a position. I'm making an argument, right? An argumentative essay. And that's an effective skill if in that type of writing. But once you understand that this is a fundamentally different environment, that means you need to have a different set of strategies. And that's what I work really closely with in my courses and also with my students.
Awesome. Well, before we wrap up, let me ask you one more question. What do you think is the biggest problem or the biggest mistake that parents or students make when they're applying for college?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I would say the biggest mistake and biggest kind of pitfall that people make is this belief that you have to be well-rounded. I mean, have you heard that phrase, like your student needs to be well-rounded, right? Show that you're well-rounded. Well, here's a couple problems with that. First of all, everybody else that's applying is showing that they're well-rounded, and they're trying to, again, prove that they're capable. So if you have spent all your application trying to prove that you're well-rounded, then on the admission side, you've just proven that you're one of many, right? The second thing is that if you believe that you have to become well-rounded, I think this has some really negative implications in terms of psychological health in high school and they get to college. Because you know that once you get to college, if success is not based on whether or not you're well-rounded, success is based on what your purpose is, what it is that you're trying to do. So if we teach students in high school that success equals checking the most amount of boxes, spreading themselves as thin as possible over as many areas as they can, once they get to college, they're not equipped or ready to really have success in the collegiate level, and even when it comes to grad school and even the rest of their life. I've sat across the desk from too many students who have had these midlife crises where everything that they've learned about how to be successful in high school now is obsolete when it comes to college. And so instead of thinking about how do I become a well-rounded person, because that's what colleges are looking for, right? Rather, I would say, understand why you're going to college. What is the thing that you're trying to do? If you went to Home Depot, I use this example a lot, and you just went in because, gosh, I just need a tool, right? And if someone says, well, what tool? You're like, I don't know. I've been told I need to come here to get a tool because that's what I need in life. Well, most people approach the college prep process like that as well. They go to college without knowing why, right? So going to college without at least a sense of what you want to accomplish is basically like going to Home Depot because you have no idea what tool you're supposed to buy. So think about it in terms of what is it that I'm trying to accomplish? How does this school assist me? And don't think in terms of success. Success does not equal how well-rounded you are. Success equals what it is you're trying to solve.
And I've heard it's not so much about being well-rounded anymore. It's really about being focused and being more centric in what you want to do. So going deep versus wide. So you want to go deep into, like, if you have an interest, whether it's like, physics, so then you should do everything with physics or robotics and go really deep and be like an expert in robotics, even write a book about robotics when you're in high school, write blog posts or do whatever. So you have all that experience, and colleges are looking more at that now than they are at being really well-rounded.
Absolutely. And I call those driven candidates. There are three types of candidates. There's weak applicants, so they have no idea what they're doing. Then you have well-rounded applicants, who are the majority of people, but then you have the sliver on the other side that I call driven applicants. And if you can showcase yourself as a driven applicant, then oftentimes your application can compensate for lower test scores and grades. So that's another secret that I help my students and families I work with. How do you showcase yourself as a driven applicant?
I like that. Well, tell us where else we can find you, Christian.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on, my website is topcollegeguru.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. But specifically for this podcast, I have a webinar that I want to give a special link to you guys for any listeners. If you go to topcollegeguru.com/elite, I have a webinar going on that's called How to Have the Perfect College Application Without Having Perfect Test Scores and Grades. And I talk a little bit more about, essay strategies. I provide actual examples, and I also show you how you can learn a whole lot more. I have a series of online classes that I offer. I was talking with, a lot of families, they struggle to find the success and support that they need. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but the average number of students per high school counselor in the United States is 482 students per counselor in high schools. And so what I'm trying to do is provide online courses so that it's an affordable option, rather than people having to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars for, college coaches who may not even have experience that I have. So I've provided several online courses that have the exact same content from my insider perspectives and experience, but at a fraction of the price. So I'm trying to help as many people, and that's what I'm trying to do. So topcollegeguru.com/elite, you can go and see the webinar, How to Have the Perfect College Application Without Needing or Having Perfect Test Scores and Grades.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you. It's been great to be here and speak with you.
Terrific. Well, remember to subscribe to our podcast, because we always have fabulous people like Christian that are going to give you education. So we tell people we educate you, inspire you, and motivate you. So it's all of one of those things. Sometimes it does all three of those things at one time. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast. And if you're looking to become a best-selling author and share your stories, like Christian was talking about, it's all about stories, go ahead and contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com. Click that submission button and tell us why you think we should work with you as being an author, and we'll get back to you right away. We'll see you next time on this podcast, Elite Expert Insider. If you'd like to create the most powerful advertising tool for your business, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we will help you create, publish, and make your book a #1 bestseller, and show you how to get new leads and more revenue for your business. If you'd like to check us out on our Facebook page, we have a free book for you as our gift. Just go and click free book. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment for our podcast. We would love to hear from you.